Welcome to Factorio Masterclass. My name is Nilaus and we are here on Gleba. We are done with Gleba for now. We've done all the things that we wanted to do to start to get Gleba going. We got the science, we got the few resources that are specific, we got stack inserters, we got bioflux, we got all the stuff that we want. So it's time for us to leave Gleba, and then the question becomes, what next? Well, obviously what's next is going to be going back to Novice and setting up some biter, capturing some biters and getting some productivity 3 modules before sort of going into Aquilo and unlocking more stuff. However, I think that when we now have 4 planets unlocked, I think it's a really good idea for us to take a look at something more important right now, and that is interstellar logistics, how to set up a good interstellar logistics between the 4 inner planets. And I'm going to do that in this episode. We're going to start by designing a new medium freighter, because we have this light freighter which was really cheap and can be built immediately, but it uses the bad recipe for thruster fuel. But now that we have been to Gleba, we actually have a better thruster fuel recipe. That is over here. We have access to calcite in space, and therefore we also have this advanced thruster fuel and advanced oxidizer. We also have the opportunity to do reprocessing. Asteroid reprocessing is also here, and there was, where is it? Asteroid reprocessing. Yes. We got that one. So the other one is on another planet, but we got the advanced asteroids, which is what we want. We also get access to efficiency 3 modules and productivity 3 modules. So we're going to use those for the design. We're also going to use stack inserter a little bit, but aside from that, it's going to be a simple ship that relies almost exclusively on normal materials. So we're going to start with building a little template. That's going to be the design, and then afterwards we're going to be setting up the logistics, how I want to set that up, because I've been testing a lot of different scenarios to sort of have a balance between not too many ships and being easy to manage. And I think I come up with a really good solution to it. So if you want to have a cool medium spaceship that's going to last you for the rest of the game, for the inner planets, and also how to set up logistics, then this is the episode for you. Right, let's dive in. And of course, as usual, the blueprints that I make, they are available to patron supporters and also the save games. So if you want to tinker around and make some optimization and just snatch any blueprints then and designs, then they are available to patron supporters. So thank you very much, everyone who's supporting on Patreon. Right, let's start with this. I'm going to build it with modules because we built many ships before. You can see that there's going to be the same format or same template that I'm working with. Defense up front. Ammo production ahead of the ahead of this. I can't. What's it called? This is the aft, and this is the bow. I think. Whatever. And then behind it we have the fuel here. Oh, and I hate this annoying new soundtrack. So bloop, onwards to the next soundtrack. And that's gonna be it. So everything else will be better, but it will be this format here. More storage as well. So let's go to our template. Let's start with making some storage design here. Some storage, because that's going to be like the first thing we want to say. How big is it going to be? There, and that one. Why this? Well, because I want to be able to go make a circle around here. Oh, that's not what I want. Let's go back to my ship here, and then go back to editor mode. There. And go back to the ship again. There we go. So now we're in editor mode. That's much nicer. There, because then things just get built. Wrong. There. Good. And then from here it'll go like this. So what we want to do, we don't want to use this here as our internal storage, because we are going to use the storage only on the belt, because we need ammo, but with stack inserters we can have a lot of ammo here. So the first thing we want to do is we want to build a front. I'm going to build this a little bit further ahead. So the first thing we want to do up front is have some kind of measure of getting things inbound, and I'm going to do that here. Oh, right, that's the wrong way. There we go, that's probably better. And they should have a 2 overlap like this. And I'm also going to make it here on the side, and I actually want to make it like this and this, which means these are going to be... It's a little bit annoying that I have to do it this way, but whatever. It's when we do the... There, so this has to go in a little bit because I can't output on this. So these are going to be output on the inside of the belt, and that gives us a pretty good coverage up front. There's a little bit of a gap here, but that's just how it is. Everything here is a compromise. Then let's get some defenses up here. Let's do it like this. And that goes in, and here. And then we can take the front and get that a little bit further out, like so. And then an important little aspect here. If I lower this to only take 6 at a time, it's not going to empty these turrets, and therefore we don't get the warning with lack of ammo. So this is the front, and this is a good place to start. Next thing we want to do is make a production facility here for ammo. That's going to be like this. We are going to do that one. And this. And then I'm going to do a beacon. This beacon will be 1 speed, 1 productivity, or 1 efficiency. Seems weird. And we can do all this. And there you go in here. So if we look at this part here, first of all, this is using lower right hand corner, minimum amount of fuel, minimum amount of fuel. This one is as little as possible, but that's the balance, but they're also faster here. And if we use our rate calculator to see, it's basically a balance here, and we produced about 3.4 ammo per second. Good. So all I need to do with this is just hook it up for here. Then that is going to be that one. And let's get that here. And then we just need some of these in here. Let's see if we can get that in a good way. That one and that one. This will be just the iron, and this will be the new one with the advanced. And we're going to get it in. And no, in and out. And this one should definitely be filtered. No, I made a mistake. Damn, too slow. Yeah. And that goes in and in. And we also... Look at that. Here we also have some ice that we don't need to use for anything, so I'm actually going to be putting it out here. Get the ice. That one, and that goes out. Why there? Because I actually want defenses also here, just to make absolutely sure that we have enough. Good. So this one is pretty much done, and we can then hook it up with the rest of it. And of course there was a absolute mistake here. So what was the problem is that the output here, this is producing still 20% of the metallic chunks get returned. Those should go on the inside belt and inside belt. So that's why we put these out inside, so we got an inside belt. Everything else is set up here, configured correctly. And we also put in solar panels everywhere else. We can also just put in accumulators, but that's kind of one of those things that I just generally do at the end, just to figure out where they have a little bit of space. Then it's go like, oh, okay, if there's a little bit of space here and there, then just put in some accumulators, because it's nice to have a little bit of accumulators, but it's certainly not something I want to waste space on where that could be used for something else. Cool. So that's the front of the ship. Let's go to the back of the ship. The back of the ship here. Now we also have some solar panels. This needs to be a little bit bigger. So let's get out here. And also much easier just to have it too big, and then slim it down. Good. So the first thing we want to make is the thrusters. So that's going to be here. We're just going to use this to center it in the middle, that one. And then we just make the thruster setup here. So this is the thruster setup, and I think this is it's a good way of setting it up. It's the entire width of the ship. I'm not going to make it any bigger than this. I am putting it into these boxes, the oxidizer and the fuel. So the fuel feeds this way and also out on the belt, on the pipe, and the oxidizer feeds this way and also out on the pipe. This one will control the flow to everything except the middle ones, and out here this one will control the flow but to everything except that part. This means the middle one will always be operational, but the other ones can be controlled by this, which means there will always be some forward momentum, but it's not going to be or always be able to have forward momentum, because this thruster will always push forward. But I can control the flow of the other ones, which means I can control the speed of the ship, which is something we want to do. Let's dig into the next part. That is going to be a setup here. That is going to be how to set up the new fuel. I think this is a design that I've been kind of tinkering with over time, and it is really neat, I think. There. And then we can also get some beacons. We're going to do the same beacon as that one. And that will be down there and also up here. So this one affects the 2 top ones, and this one affects the middle and the 2 bottom ones. That should be pretty okay. I was kind of wondering, I wanted to do it like this, but then I couldn't get stuff inbound and outbound. Because the idea here is that we're getting stuff in on this belt. Yes. And I will have one belt with calcite, which is used for all of them, all the top 4, and ice, and another one with the carbon and iron. And this is what it looks like. We are now getting calcite, and then also the iron and the carbon out from these 2 belts. So the only thing we're missing is getting it onto the belt. And that means up here, we're going to go... let's see, that should be a good place. This will be iron, and this will be carbon. We can now see that we are a little bit further away from where we want to be. There we go. And that's going to be iron out here. There, and that's going to be carbon out here, which will go on the inside of the belt. And in order to do that, I have to do this. Great. I am going to do this belt here. That's going to be here, here, and this is the inbound and outbound. Now, that actually shows us exactly where it should be. So I can actually now go like that. There you go. This is why we use the editor mode to build these kind of things. Good. All right. So that's one thing. Remember, everything that we can should have product efficiency modules in, because we want to lower the power usage as much as possible. This is not important for many places, but it's important for Fulgora. So everything has to be designed towards being able to support on Fulgora. Now, on this belt, I want ice, which I'm going to use a lot of, and then also calcite, which I'm going to use a little bit of. So I need to make sure that the ice from here is always consumed first, but I will supplement with additional ice. Fuck ice. There you go. And there, and that one goes out here. This one is that. And then I also get calcite, because this actually works. It may not look like it, but it actually works, because this will give us the priority we need. There we go. And again, also, ice goes in here. And it gets consumed. And the calcite goes on the other side, because it merges in on the inside. This one will only be able to insert as long as the belt is not full. Which means that this one will try to fill up the entire belt. As long as it, of course, comes by, but also the direction it goes into the calcite first. Now, as there's never enough of these resources out here, so we'll just kind of spawn some in so that we can get the production going a little bit. There we go. And that should now come in here. And we can then see that this is working, and these should be filling up, hopefully, if things are working. First they fill up in here. Good. So this is working, and now what we can do is we can then just go use this remainder space here. Oops. Here, 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 and here. This is a good space for us to actually get some more power. So, what are we missing? Well, we're missing a few things. This belt will not be self-balancing, and it really needs to be self-balancing. So what we need to do is we need to set up a balancer, which is something we have on all ships, even the small ones. Even the small ones have somewhere. Really? I don't have it on the small ones? No, I don't. Oh, I couldn't fit it in. I guess not. Okay. Well, that's really important to get that for our ship here. Yeah, so what it is it's basically here. I want to be able to say, oh, right, because I didn't have this reprocessing. This tech is only available on after Volcanus. That's why we don't have it. Cool. So I want to be able to reprocess all the different resources here. And this one should also be reprocessing. No, this should actually be reprocessing the one that's most likely to happen, and this should be reprocessing the second most likely to happen. There. Right. So the way it works, I'm going to set this up here. We are going to use a controller. There, and let's turn around. This is going to monitor the belt. So monitor the belt, everything on the belt. So now it monitors how much is on the belt. Then it's going to do some conditions that says since this is reprocessing the metallic ones, it says if there's more metallic than there is carbon, and there's more metallic than there is oxide, and there's more metallic than the threshold, which is 120, we'll come back to that, then yes, reprocess, send a green signal. And then that green signal goes back here for an enabler to say it'll be active. There. So this will grab stuff in here when this is active. This is disabled by control behavior because it's not active yet. It needs to go up to 120 and needs to have more of these. And then I can just do the same thing for the other ones. Okay, but we need a little bit more. We are going to get down here. We are going to get some kind of input here. I think I need to build it here. I would, of course, like to build it one in, but I can't really do that. So here. This also has a different aspect, is because we want to make sure that we also defend this area. So I'm going to do this. Here. Nope, not that one. Here. 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 And yeah. Great. So now if we look at the defenses, yes, they look good, except for the back. So we do need a little ship down here. And one down there. Yeah. How do we do that? Well, we're going to do a little bit of a hack here. But it's okay. It's just an ammo line down the side of the ship. And that goes on this side as well. Does put a little bit of here, but it just gets us safe. And we can again go with the next part of just filling stuff in here with anywhere we have space available, then we just put in some accumulators. There we go. Accumulators everywhere. Now, what are we missing? We're missing the controls of the ship. And let's start with the thruster control. So this is, I'm just going to set up and then explain it. Okay, so the way it works is I have set a percentage sign, and this is just 1%. So here I have a so-called counter. This is just counting up to 100 and then restarting. So this basically says it's just a counter goes to 100. That means I can now set this up as a percentage. I can say, okay, when the percentage is less than 20%, then it's active. This is just a way for me to say the thrusters are going to be 20% active and 80% idle. We can turn that up or down depending on how fast you want your ship to go, and also balancing with the fuel consumption. 20%, it'll get there pretty quick. So this is a good balance, I think, because thrusters are more efficient. If they have this weird graph, they are not very efficient when they're at maximum fuel usage. But that's the essence. So if you want to save a little bit of fuel but still get a good speed, then using some kind of sort of only percentage based is a really good idea. Right, so that was one control. The other control is that we need to get a setup here. I'm going to set this up. We do have to have a central place where we define how much we want of each thing. So here I have defined how much I want for each thing to be happy. This is how much I want on the belt. I want 120 of each. And this is how much I want in storage. This is the velocity. Don't really need the velocity actually, but we do want to say that we are not departing a planet unless we have at least 500 ammo, 15,000 thrusters, 15,000 oxide, and 5,000 water. That needs to be true before we leave the planet. This needs to just be set out. So basically what I need to do is I want to get all the inputs from this line here. How far can we go up? There? Yeah. Looks awful, by the way. Maybe I just do it like this. There. And then from here up to that one. And from here straight up and then in. This will be monitoring the belt because I do want the belt out. And that goes now from here into the input. So now we see the green is what we have, which is looking at everything here plus everything on the belt. And then the red one is how much we want. And then we can see out here, if it's a negative number, we have enough. If it's a positive number, we're missing something. So for example, we're still missing water, we're still missing a lot of oxide, but we do have enough, more than enough thruster fuel. So that goes in here, and then it simply goes in and says, do we have enough? If we have enough of the three things, of the four things we want, then send a green signal. That green signal will trigger the lamp and also go back in here, which will be the green signal for allowing us to depart the planet. Right, so the only thing that we're missing is from this output, no, from this output, we also can then say, from you up there, I'm just going to set filter, and that will mean that we allow all the filters to go in. Let's see, yes, yes, and yes. So we do need more of each of these, and then we can just go up here. There, that's the top ones, and of course they need to be set to filters. There. And then I need to go down from this location in here to that one. Go over somewhere else. Maybe not there. That one. That one. That one. Good. So this is set filter. Now we can control it. If we set up use here, then we can spam a lot of this, spam a lot of this, and spam a lot of this, so that we can see that they will eventually be stop picking up some of them when it's happy. Eventually, I hope. There, now you can see something, the carbonic has been disabled because we got enough of that. The metallic has been disabled, but the ice is still, the oxide is still available. So that's still going to be picked up. But at some point it'll also have enough of that. That means also we should see that some of these, this one, will actually spring into life. That one. Because yes, it has more of the metallic than all the other ones, and it's more than 120. We accidentally picked up a little bit too much. That's just how it works. And then it'll sort of self-balance by trying to correct these and turn them into some of the other ones. For example, mainly the oxide. And that's it. So this ship is now ready for its maiden voyage. What I'll do is I will set this up so that it goes around to all the planets and then comes back. We are parked over at Nilaus, so let's just do a round trip around to all planets, but also have it only depart when it's a green signal, and then just monitor it. And here we go. The ship is now departing. We are sending it off from Nilaus, just going all the way to Vulcanus, to Gleba, to Fulgora. We're just going to monitor it as it moves along. The things we want to check is that when it departs each planet, or when it arrives at the planet, how big are the stockpiles? You can see here the water is kind of struggling. That's because water is getting converted into to fuel. So, and also water is not really being produced as fast as possible. It's tempting to put another speed module in, but I think we'll be seeing that that's a bad idea eventually. As we get into Vulcanus, we can see that there is a slight deficit of water, but it's very, very close. So it doesn't take long after it gets to Vulcanus to actually top up. And then it departs from Vulcanus again. It didn't take that long time, but it does fill up the fuel first, which I think is fine. We want the fuel to be going in first here. And let me just look at how much we have on the belt here, because it does seem like we have quite a lot of... No, that's a little bit... They're actually very, very close to sort of the perfect ratio, but the belt just looks very busy here. And I don't want to be in a position where they can't export these oxide chunks back on the network. There has to be gaps on this belt. This is why I'm setting it to 120 and not 150, because then there would be no space left on the belt. You can see none of these are set up for requesting anything, but when we are building or as we are consuming something, then these will switch on a little bit, and then they'll all grab at the same time, which is why we sometimes go a little bit over the threshold, and then they'll be sort of correcting with the reprocessing. And we're also right now on Gleba, and again the water is missing here, but it's also just really no, okay, most of the water is actually going in here, so when this gets up, then we'll be departing again. Right, as we get closer to Fulgora, we're going to see issues, and I also saw that I have forgotten to put in efficiency modules here, and it was actually consuming too much power. So put efficiency modules in everywhere. I might just look like everything else has efficiency modules. That's good. Right, so we're now moving to Fulgora, and we can see that the power output of the solar panels is decreasing, because Fulgora is not a great place for solar power. So this means that our power is dipping, and we will see, if we go over to the power, that we are actually now consuming the accumulator charge. Not fast, but we are consuming it. And now it's consuming fast because we're barely getting anything here. The solar power is not great. So what we're seeing now is that the accumulator charge is decreasing. We can see that this one is still working, and then we will be able to get safely away from Fulgora. But it's also a little bit cheating to do it this way, because now I'm just basically departing before this energy drains. You can also see that we stopped at Fulgora, and if we're looking at the power, it's actually almost like it's barely consuming here. It's barely consuming. It's very, very little accumulator charge. And this is also when we are in position here. Okay, so what I want to show is I want to see if what happens if we're on Fulgora and we actually run out of accumulator charge, because there will be a deficit of power, but it will not be a critical deficit of power. And I think that's important to show that it works in this case. I don't want it to overscale the solar panels, so there's no issues on Fulgora. So this is kind of the balance. That's why we're going to do this. And then I'm also going to say this, you're going to wait 120 seconds. And then we're going to be getting, as we get in here, we'll also just drain the resources so we get everything working. Just want to see it in the worst case scenario, and that is when it's on Fulgora. So here we are now on Fulgora. We have exhausted our accumulator charge. We are running at almost power, right? This is so close. And as we sort of, when we get to a point where everything else is stopping, like for example here, when this box is full, then we'll use even less, and then we actually start accumulating. So as soon as we leave Fulgora, then we can see that the accumulators start refilling again. There we go. So, and if us being at Fulgora means that it's running at 80% power, that is perfectly fine by me. I don't want to overscale it. And yeah, if you have a few of these in rare quality, by all means, put that in. Anything else, beacons in uncommon quality, it also makes a big difference. So yeah, we have a ship that's ready. It's working. It can go between all planets, all inner planets. So now it's about how do we set up logistics in the best way. First, let's talk about the different ideas. And I think the best way is looking at it on the map. So I have, in the previous episode, my first Let's Play, I basically had one ship for each planet. And that ship was basically sending things out, was sort of on the Nilaus ship, was sort of taking the stuff that is produced on Nilaus and then going out, 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 and back again. And like doing milk runs, like basically going around and go like, hey, do you want something? Do you want something? Or do you want something? Or like the home delivery ice cream truck goes around, goes like, hey, you want buy some ice cream, buy some ice cream, buy some ice cream, and go back and refill. The advantage of this is that it's super easy, and the first thing you have is a Nilaus, so it's more logical that you set it up because, hey, all the stuff from Nilaus go to Vulcanus. Then when you get the second planet, you go like, oh, or the second planet, of course, you go like, hey, actually the stuff that I brought to Vulcanus, let me also get that to Fulgora. And you realize you also need a ship from Vulcanus to go there, and as you start transitioning more resources to Vulcanus, maybe you transition some things over to be sent from Vulcanus to Nilaus. And so forth, and then that ended up me having a ship for each planet as mainly output. But then it was like, okay, but you actually want to get some, when on Gleba you actually want Tesla turrets. So, but you don't want to send Tesla turrets to all locations because they are very useless on Vulcanus and pretty useless on Nilaus. Well, they're not actually, but then we want something here. So I was saying the Gleba exporter will also pick up some of the stuff that is only used for Gleba here. And it got really complex because then you need the Tesla turrets here as well. And they might be like, yeah, okay, maybe I should send somewhere else. So this whole idea was not great. In the late game, I also set up a more advanced where it was like every trade lane, so basically one of these lines, has a ship that manages both the imports and exports. So basically that goes back and forth between these two planets, just continuously back and forth, and just picks up everything from Nilaus to Fulgora, anything from Fulgora to Nilaus. That also worked, but it's a lot of spaceships, and at this point, we really don't want to be that many spaceships. We want to have 4 spaceships to service this entire area, and then we'll deal with Aquilo once we've tapped Aquilo as well. But then 4 ships is what we want. So after doing a lot of iterations, I found out that what the best way is actually to do an import ship. So you you have a ship that is saying anything for Nilaus from all the other planets should be brought on this ship. Why is this better? Well, because you have the option of, if we go here, we have the option of, say, making an interrupt that says, like this one, come on, resupply, Fulgora, which basically says if there are any imports, any all requests satisfied. That's weird to have all requests satisfied. Ignore that. If this ship has any planet import from Fulgora that isn't serviced, and you're allowed to leave, because they're just checking this, it should be, but because this one won't complete, but I'm just putting in here just in case. Then go to Fulgora, pick up stuff, don't unload stuff. Very important to have this one not checked. Don't allow to unload anything on Fulgora, you're just going there to pick up stuff. So you pick up, and then until you're happy, and there's a green signal, and it's been there for a little bit. You don't technically need it, but I just like having it. Or that you're ready to leave, and you've been sitting there for 60 seconds, and you haven't been able to get what you want. Then leave again. Because if we do this, we are able to resupply all the planets. There. That means it's pretty simple for us to actually go. I think in this case, I'd actually want to have Gleba first, but let's ignore that for now. It'll go for the interrupts and figure out which one's needed. So that means what I can do is I can set up some specific imports for the different planets. And I can actually just do that. And let's go here. Ooh, dear, there's a lot of things. So I can actually do these. Here, they're already set up. They're already prepared a little bit, at least. Oh, there's an ungodly amount of things here. And the last section here. Oh no, you're actually moving already. Damn, that was not the intention. Because I needed to explain a little bit more. And that's Volcanus there. So, what happens now is that I'm actually going to shoot the Volcanus up top. There we go, in the sequence. I like it. So, because I added Fulgora, then it went to Fulgora. It immediately registered that, oh, you know what? I don't have this, or this, or this. So, let me go to Fulgora. Then it automatically goes to Fulgora. What happens now is going to be a little bit interesting, because once it's done with Fulgora, you would kind of hope that it would go back to Nilaus, but there's an easy way and a complex way to do this. The easy way is what are we doing? Because once it's done on Fulgora, then it will just identify that we actually don't have the stuff from Volcanus. Then it'll go to Volcanus. Then we identify that we don't have the stuff from Gleba, and then it'll go to Gleba. However, it annoys me that it doesn't have the Tesla turrets. Should have that, but oh well. Then we get to see what happens if it's not satisfied, and then it goes out here. So this is a simple solution. I have also, and as you can see here, I have also tried to create like multiple situations, because what will happen now? Oh, it is getting this one. Oh, it's just because I have so few launchers that it has to launch one at a time. Okay, but they are on the way. Right, so this one will now go here, and it'll go to the next one, pick up, and then go into the next one, which means in the beginning it'll be roaming around between the different planets until it comes back to Nilaus when there's no one else, nothing else that it can pick up. However, there are edge cases where this system, because of its simplicity, cannot handle. Let's say I'm requesting something that Yes. I obviously don't have epic Yumaku soil on Gleba, on Fulgora. And if I wanted to request that, then it would keep sort of coming back here and trying to go there and then wait for 60 seconds and then go to somewhere else. But if I have two locations that both have something that I don't have enough of for whatever reason, then it'll actually keep bouncing between those two planets. So be mindful of that. This is a limitation of the system, is that if you have two of the other supply planets that don't have something, then it's never coming back to Nilaus, because it keeps triggering between these two. This is one of those things where I'm like, yeah, it sucks, but get your shit in order and make sure that you produce the stuff that you want. So if you're requesting something, you should request something that you have, and therefore it's when it's in an idle situation, it's going to be sitting over Nilaus, just waiting, and then once you request something from Nilaus, then it'll immediately trigger to go out and pick up the stuff that you're missing. And I think that it works better for the edge case, or no, for the main case, and less well for the edge case. And I think that's most important, because what I found was annoying with the my milk run setup here was that I was sitting on Novice and building something, and then I exhausted all my resources. Then I was like, okay, where is the ship? Maybe the ship is right here. But now I know that it has to go to Volcanus to pick up more beacons, then go here and here and here, and then only drop it off. And then I use those beacons, and then it goes again for more beacons, and here, 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 and then comes back. That takes, like 15 minutes of round trip or something like that. And, I'm sitting here looking at ghost images of beacons and belts, and I want to get on with my design criteria. So I'd much rather have it in a situation with the import where it's sitting over Novice, and once I exhaust all the belts from my storage on Novice and the storage on the spaceship, then it goes out, goes to Volcanus to pick up more, and then comes back with the stuff that I'm currently using a lot of. And yes, if I'm certainly using a lot of EM plans and foundries and whatever else I want from Gleba, then let's say stack inserters, then sure, it will go out to all 3 of them at once and come back. But hey, that's because I'm using things from 3 different planets. But most of the time it'll be sitting idle on the home planet, and then whenever the storage on Novice and on the spaceship is exhausted, then it'll go out for a resupply run, which will be a point-based that goes out and back, out and back, out and back, which is much better. This is why I've designed it this way, and I think that it works really well. We've actually tried it a little bit. We're now sitting here on Volcanus, and we just don't have enough launchers to get all this in here quickly. This means that you have to set up for each of the different locations. You have to set up what it needs from each planet. And yes, that is going to be a significant setup, and you will need to do some setup for multiple, because, for example, this one I'm set up, I want electromagnetic plants, I want recyclers, and I want Tesla turrets. That's kind of the same thing I want on for Gleba, but I can't know that for sure. So, for example, Gleba to... someone forgot. Well, I haven't built it yet. So that would be... I'll do Gleba, and then I'm going to go over here to get that arrow. And then I'm going to go back and say that is from Fulgora inbound. That one. So what would I want here? Well, I'd also really like to have 20 of these. Yes, I would have 20 of these, because you never know. And I would have, what's the last thing? The Tesla turrets. Yes, Tesla turrets are important. We actually, here, since that's our main defense, we actually want more of that. While if we look at the Volcanus freighter, Volcanus, and, oh wait, still don't have that. I've been lazy building these. So that's Volcanus inbound from Fulgora. This one. What do we want? Well, we still want to have the electromagnetic plants, and we still want to have the recyclers. But do we want to have Tesla turrets? No, because they don't serve any value. They don't serve a purpose, so I don't want to make them here. I don't want to import them here. So yes, you will have to set it up, but once you set it up, it's quite consistent on how to set it up, and it'll be really easy to overview. There is another caveat, as let's say you could make do with just having, instead of having, as I do here, having these 3 different ones, then just have a single one that just says import to Novice. But for me personally, I prefer having it in different groups, because then I can visually see where all of them are. Remember, just because I added up here doesn't mean that it gets up there, because it defaults to Novice most of the time, or to the unique planet. So you have to do it like this in order to get it up here. But I prefer having it separate, so I can see, okay, right now we're on Volcanus. This is what we expect to get in here. Okay, cool. Let's look at the other ones. And then when I find out that I'm now no longer making quality on Volcanus, but I actually want to go here, yes, I can't drag it between groups, but then set up. But you are welcome to make it into one group, one input group for each planet. That's totally up to you. And that's basically how we want to do it for the inner planets. Once those are set up, then we have four ships. These ships, they're not very expensive. And as we have just proven, they work on everywhere. They travel really fast. They have a good storage. 500, what is it, 400? Yeah, 400 stacks of storage, so pretty good storage. And you can then set it up to get everything inbound to that planet. And then it just stands here and has this resupply for each of the planet. And there we go. Then that's all of the internal logistics you need. And I guarantee you that when you have this one set up, you will have this. This will just be running for the rest of the game. You don't need to make these changes. If you want to make like bulk transfer of 100,000 plastic, make a separate chip for that. But this is for everything here. You could also just have it. You should probably have a separate one for science that goes out to the different planets when the science is running out. But that's going to be exactly the same principle. So, hope you enjoyed this. This blueprint is of course available to Patreon supporters, and I'm including all these resupply things so that you have those as well. So thank you very much for watching. I hope you enjoyed it, and thank you to everyone who's supporting on Patreon. Until next time, take care and stay effective.